Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right. Welcome back to the Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have a guest with us today who not only is a high school track coach, but he's an endurance runner. And on top of being an endurance runner, he successfully completed a couple of the long distance runs through Tennessee, which is primarily the biggest one being Vol State. And also, you know, if you followed him any, you've seen him doing the Heart of the South as well, which can vary anywhere between 300 to 400 miles, depending on what kind of mood Lazarus Lake is in. Chris, if you don't care, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be on your podcast. It's my very first podcast ever, so you guys bear with me out there. I've been running since I was in high school. I played football, wrestled, ran track, was fairly successful at all three at different stages. College, I went off. I didn't get any scholarships, but I joined a fraternity, and they had intramurals, and I was able to continue some running there with some of the cross-country events. And then the summer after my freshman year in college, I was working in a wood bin and was trying to keep things short. I was buried in wood shavings and suffered anoxia, which is oxygen deprivation in my brain. Also had lung tissue damage from the wood chips that I was inhaling. Basically, as a result, I had to learn all gross and fine motor skills from scratch, which meant I had to relearn how to walk. I had to relearn how to dress myself, tie my shoes, bathe myself, feed myself. I had to relearn how to write. Everything that you can kind of imagine and take for granted as even a healthy 19-year-old is what I was at the time. Everything had to be start over from scratch. And I think as one of those, an event like that, and I want to also preface it by saying that in no way am I saying that my life has been harder than somebody else's. I never want to get in that kind of a situation where I get into a comparison. Everybody's life has their challenges. Everybody has their trials and tribulations. This is just my trial and my tribulation and what I went through. And I couldn't have recovered the way I did without the support of my family and the doctors and therapists that were placed in my path to get back to where I wanted to be. Took a year off of school, and my dad took his time to help with my rehabilitation. He took a leave of absence from his work. He was a high school football and wrestling coach, and my siblings took a back seat in their lives so that more attention could be devoted to me. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. By the graces of God, I was able to recover to the point that unless I was telling you this story, I don't think anybody would ever imagine that I had to endure such an event. So you can imagine being wheeled around in a hospital and then up on like parallel bars and helping you take your first steps, and then being able to progress to the point that I've been able to accomplish some pretty cool things in my running and endurance career. As far as the running goes, I did the normal progressions from 5K to 10K to half marathons to marathons. Was able and fortunate to qualify for Boston 1 year. And that was actually the year of the bombing that I completed. So I guess if you're going to complete qualify for a Boston, you're going to make it the one that nobody will ever forget.
Wow.
And then after that, I found that I was getting a little bit older. I mean, not older, but I mean, I was getting to the point that I wanted to find out if there was something more longer than the marathon. And that's when I kind of happened on ultra distances and found that, well, I might not be able to run as fast as some people, but I sure as hell can run about as long as a lot of people and most people and more than some. So that's when I kind of got into the ultras and did the strolling gym found out about Lazarus Lake, and then happened upon the Vol State race. And like a lot of people, when I came across it, I said it was the last annual. I was like, damn, I missed it. And then I had to finally learn the tricks of the trade. That now that's just Laz's, sense of finality or lack of finality in things. And so I started on that one and was able to successfully complete that. And I've been able to do successfully complete 6 of those. That's kind of, if I told people, it's like if I could only do one race, if they can only do one race for the rest of my life, I would probably pick Ball State as that race to do. It's that much. It means that much to me. The people along the race, the Road Angels, have become a special part of my life, and they take an interest in me, just not in my running, but as far as my family goes and such like that. So that's just kind of been where I've kind of morphed into. As a lot of people do, they start at that shorter distance. Some people stay there, and other people like us, we tend to explore some other boundaries.
So, Chris, before we get too far into Vol State, I want to go back and just talk a little bit about this incident or accident that happened.
Yeah.
Now, how old were you when that wood chip incident happened?
I was 19. I had just turned 19. I was after my freshman year in college.
And how long were you trapped underneath those wood chips?
This was secondhand knowledge because I don't remember the incident, the accident. I was fortunate to have a buddy of mine from high school that was helping me that day, as he was trying to pull me out and was unsuccessful with it. It was a minimum of 5 minutes, probably somewhere closer to 10 minutes. I was fortunate that day the wood shavings were larger and flake, and so that although I was ingesting them, they weren't completely suffocating my lungs to the extent that finer wood shavings would have done.
So how did it happen? Like where did the wood chips come from?
It was a lumber yard. The weekends, I would bale hay for a guy, and during the week, we'd go over to Caro, Illinois, and it was just a big lumber yard. And they would fire off, these wood shavings into this huge bin, and then it would compress into an auger, and then we would be at the end with plastic bags and baling them. It was basically horse bedding, and then we'd load up semi-trailers with it. And at some point, sometimes it gets clogged up and you have to go up there and poke it so that it keeps feeding into the auger. And it happened to be that morning I was up there and I was standing above a shallow cavity with a stick. And as you're poking around, I hit that shallow cavity and it completely engulfed me up to my wrist. But my friend was, like I said, he was unsuccessful because the weight was too great to get me. And he said my hand turned purple, and then he heard a gurgle and a gasp from me that he says he'll never forget. And that's when he put his hat on my hand and then went to get help. And the people from the lumber yard were really quick as they could be, as far as to try to get me excavated and get me to ICU at the hospital.
So did you ingest
I ingested. They said when they extracted the wood shavings, they extracted about a cup of wood shavings from my lungs. Wow. And they said that the tissue damage, they said, would be permanent. But as I've been able to find out, and we find out that the human body's recovery process and capabilities are far beyond what modern medicine can actually predict. So, and I was fortunate with that. And then with the lack of oxygen in my brain, like I said, I had to relearn every single thing over again. I was in a hospital bed. I couldn't understand why I couldn't write. I couldn't understand why I couldn't get up and walk. It was a process that, although I don't wish it on anybody, looking back, I'm actually grateful for the lessons that I learned from it, the humility that I learned, the ability and the need to get help sometimes when you have to have it and you don't go through this life all on your own.
How long did it take you to
I took a year off from college. It took me, it was crazy. They said that within 2 weeks, or within a week and a half, 2 weeks of the accident, I was actually, of course, I don't remember this. This is doctors relaying the story to me because I was still um, not really with it. They said I was actually up and walking, but they said that my synapses, neurons, they weren't capable of handling that kind of a load. And that's when I shut back down and had to go back into intense physical and occupational therapy. It took me another 2 months before I was probably walking on my own. And that's just walking, it's not, there's no distance to it. It's getting up and being able to walk yourself to the bathroom, walk yourself, to the living
Well,
room, like that.
and just to think, I'm just sitting here thinking like your very first step was probably just trying to learn motor skills,
Yeah,
before you even made it to walking, like just trying to be able to even
yeah,
feed yourself
Yeah.
yeah.
or
I had to.
go to the
Yeah, exactly.
bathroom.
I mean, you're sitting there, and the 19-year-old, and I was fully aware of what I should be able to do, and
Yeah.
that's where the humility comes into, is having your dad pick you up and carry you to the bathroom, pick you up and carry you to the dining room table, and then having your mom or a sibling um, feed you because your brain neurons they haven't been rewired, and they're not firing. It all has to be learned all over again.
How long was you in the hospital during that time? I know you took a year off of
I
college,
was
but how
I
long
was
was you?
actually I was in the hospital. As far as the length of time I was in the hospital, I was probably in the hospital, and of course my family would have a better recollection of this. Probably about up to a month. Yeah, I think I was, like I said, I think I was in the hospital for about a month, and then they released me to outpatient. But I had daily PT and OT every day at the hospital, and that's why my dad had to take a leave of absence so that he would, so that we could manage that kind of a therapy session. And there was times where somebody would be back, like, "Can we record this? Can we, take a picture?" And I was, of course, 19 in college. I was like, "Hell no!" I was like, I didn't know how far I was going to be able to come back, and I was pretty, sure I was going to try to come back as far as I could. But if I didn't want, video evidence of, me, being, carried by a nurse or something like that. They also tried to get me to learn how to operate a wheelchair. I was like,
Mm.
hell no. It's like, I'm not doing that because I'm not going to be in a wheelchair.
And that's a long recovery. But I mean, I guess, given the
Yeah. And
fact
as
of
far as
like having to learn everything all over again, like it's just,
right,
I can
as far as
imagine how hard that was for you, like just, especially as a teenager, like
Yeah.
being
right.
kind of feeling helpless.
Oh yeah, you're a teenager. You're bulletproof. You don't think these things can ever happen to you, and then it's happening to you. And as far as like the whole learning process again, and just not just the physical side of it, but I was a pretty good student in high school, and continued to expect that in college. I could read something, and then I could throw it back out on the test and be able to ace it. And when I went back to college, I found out is like I have to read the chapter, I had to highlight the chapter, I had to outline the chapter, and then I had to study the outline for the test. So it was a multi-stage process just to get the same grade that I was accustomed to getting before.
Yeah.
So it was that was a whole new learning curve as well when you have to add all those steps to your process.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. So after recovery, what did what did that change, or did it change anything? Like, how did your life? Which path did it change your path of directions?
Uh, yeah, I mean, as far as like academic wise, I started out, I was going to be international marketing. I had taken like 7 years of Spanish, and was fluent in Spanish, and was going that route. And then as a result of the accident, I wasn't fluent in Spanish anymore. I wasn't able to to grasp that. I've been able to kind of slowly pick it back up a little bit, but nowhere near what I was before the accident. And then I just went into business after that. I went into sales and marketing, and did that for a number of years, and then decided when I got married to my kid's mom, she was a nurse anesthetist and had crazy call hours. And with us having a family, it's like one of us needed to find something that was a little bit more conducive to that. And so I went into teaching, and subsequently went into physical education, and got my master's from MTSU in physical education, and been doing that. This is my 22nd year of teaching elementary PE.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you teach elementary. I thought you said high school.
I'm a high school track coach.
Okay.
I teach at the
I'm with
elementary.
you.
It's a small community. About 5 minutes from we're about 5 minutes campuses apart. When I finish my day at elementary, then I go to the high school and
So you get the best of both worlds.
Track.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get to teach the little ones, and then I get to deal with the older,
the big
older
ones.
kids as well. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when did you decide to start trying to run after everything that you went through?
I found out that, and it's nothing against. I mean, running or walking took the least amount of coordination. There was no hand-eye coordination to it. I didn't have a racket, didn't have a bat, didn't have a paddle, didn't have any of that. It was just one foot in front of the other. And I found a drawing to that I really obviously took to, and decided that I think I wanted to do a marathon, and I thought that was like the biggest distance in the world, but I had no idea how to train for it. I had no idea what the preparation was for it. My longest run was maybe 12 miles, and then I entered the St. Louis Marathon, and it was I don't think I walked normal for about 3 weeks after that. It was the last thing. It was just like I said, I'm not doing that again. That whole thing is like, I'm never doing it. We know how that goes.
Yep. Next you're looking.
I think we all like do that. It's my first real like race that I tried to like truly race was the Secret City Half Marathon in Oak Ridge.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea. I didn't know anything about fuel. I didn't know anything. I mean, it's whatever. But I even ran 5-finger shoes.
Oh man.
And when I finished that race, my friends wanted to go to Big Ed's Pizza.
Yeah.
And I could barely walk in there. My calves were so sore from those barefoot shoes. Like I had to go to the bathroom, and I couldn't make it down the steps. I almost started crying because like I couldn't go to the bathroom, and I was like trying to get down the steps, and I was like, and I had no idea it was those shoes. Like I was like, is this how everybody feels after a half marathon?
I could not imagine running in those barefoot shoes on asphalt for 13 miles.
I did the not a one up, but I did the Rocket City in those.
I could
not. I had the Rocket City full, and I was actually running by my car. Actually, the route was past my car, and I had those 5 fingers on, and I was like, "Do I jump off and switch shoes?" And I was like, I said, "No. You're a dumbass. You signed up. This is what you wore. You're going to deal with the consequences of your actions." And they were. It was not a pleasant experience for sure.
I've made some bad decisions in my life. I'm not gonna lie. I decided to try a 6-hour race one time with barefoot sandals and only fueling with avocados. That didn't go great.
Which one was that? Three Sisters?
Then last year, I tried to do no business in barefoot shoes, and that lasted about 13 miles, and I don't even know. It was so funny. Mary looked at me one day, and she said, "Can we just try to set ourselves up for success one time?"
Well, also a Big Frog, you wore them stupid sandals as well during Big Frog. 50K.
All good.
Are you talking the Tevas? Are those the Tevas that Greg always wore? Oh,
No, I
Luna.
wore the Lunas. Yeah, they were true sandals, like
Oh, yeah.
true sandals. But it's all good. So,
Yeah.
like you were saying though, like you finished that first half marathon, and like you just everything hurts. Your first. It's kind of like your first 100 miler. When you finish, you're just like, is this how everybody feels?
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that was kind of like what I felt like after, when I went into Vol State. I went into the first Vol State in 2018, and they always said it's like, the whole thing is like, well, if you have a plan, it's out the window in your first, you know, 5, 10, whatever miles. It's like, so I was like, okay, I'm not even going in with a plan. And I mean, I didn't know where I was going to stop. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know when to stop. I didn't know, how long I could stop, as far as just all these, just a comedy of errors along the way. And I ended up having to call for crew as I was heading into Parker's Crossroads, and was fortunate to have someone come and crew me through on that one. But other than that, the rest of them I've been able to do screwed.
So you did that was a marathon you were just talking about though before Ball State, right?
Yes, yes.
When did you? What was? If I'm looking at your ultra sign up, and I'm not sure if this is correct or not, but it looks like your very first ultra was Strolling Jim, or did you
Yeah.
do one before that?
No, that was the very first one. Was that I'm trying to think, was that 13,
2011.
11? So
Not a bad time for that race. I mean, 6 hours 56 minutes.
yeah,
How did that?
that's
How
another
did
one
that one
where
go?
that was another one where it's like I was completely cussing Laz because you sign up for a 40, right? And you're like, okay, I'm at 40. Where the hell's the finish line? And it was, it's that 1.2 that just, I mean, it just kicks you because it's just like, I mean, I was cussing him like a dog because it's like I said, all I wanted to do was 40, and you're making me do
Yeah.
41.2, and everybody's like, it's just 1.2, but after doing 40 on that course, that's a tough course to do. It's a tough one to inaugurate an ultra into for sure.
It's a hot one. That's
Yeah,
for
it's a
sure.
hot one. Yeah, and I've been fortunate enough that because it's somewhat close to my home, and it actually happens during track season now. My track season, I usually have a track meet that it's so well marked that I probably have done more training runs on that course than I've actually raced it.
Mm-hmm.
I just go out with a pack and it's like, and just follow the lines and the arrows, and because there's nothing out there anyway, as far as when
No.
you get out there. It's I remember one year I was just completely dehydrated and had no water whatsoever, and I was knocking on people's door to get water, and that's when desperate times call for desperate measures.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know at one point I was so thirsty, I couldn't find anything. I just literally went and I told Mike, I was like, we got to stop because he was dying too. I was like, we just went and sat under the bridge for like 30 minutes. We didn't have any water. We just sat under the bridge just so I could cool off and he could cool off. And then we finally got back on the highway and started running again on Ball State. And like, I think maybe 30 minutes later, we finally found water, but it was just like that one stretch. I was like, what are we going to do? Like, there's not even a house to stop at. There's nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully someone throws a bottle at me and it has water in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think I was ever. I think my thirstiest I've ever been was the Hots in 2022. I don't think I've ever been as thirsty climbing up Sand Mountain as I was that time. I mean, I was actually going behind people's houses trying to find a spigot that I could get into. That was the longest. I mean, you've done that thing. That's a long, brutal climb up that hill, up that
I don't
mountain.
remember anything about it, Chris. It,
Blacked
so
out.
no, it was the storm. So I ran up at the year of the hurricane or whatever happened, and there was tree limbs falling in the middle of the road. The wind was blowing. I was completely exposed. So I ran that entire mountain.
Wow.
And I didn't even know that till this year, but who is it?
Durst.
Durst. Yeah.
Kimberly, yeah.
Kimberly Durst actually tagged me in a post. I had no idea. I've never even looked. I have the second fastest time on that segment.
Yep.
I averaged like a 10 something
Wow.
pace all the way up the hill.
That's what happens
But I
when
didn't
you're
have a
fighting
choice.
through life.
Yeah, and like I lost my phone, got ruined. It got completely soaked. I had it in a Ziploc bag, and somehow the Ziploc bag opened.
Yeah.
So by the end of it, it's not like I had a little fish in there, like it's just floating. But what was funny was my girlfriend and my daughter about halfway up this hill. I didn't care. I'm running in the middle of the road. I'm on the yellow line, just running, and cars are coming down,
Yeah.
going up, and I'm just running in the middle. And this one dude stops, and he's like, "Dude, you need help?" I'm like, "You got to go. You got to go." He's like, "Do not tempt me. You got to go." And then it was like 10 minutes later, my girlfriend and my daughter pull up beside me, and they're like, "You're doing great." And I just turn around and look at them, and I'm like, "I'm gonna die." And they're like, "We'll see you at the end." And they drive on up, and I'm like, "No." I was. That's probably the scariest run I've ever done, just because of that. Like it was terrible. That storm blew in. I just remember after I got done, I saw this guy had posted a picture of his feet sitting under an awning or something at a restaurant or wherever, waiting on it to be done. I'm like,
We were in was it Manchester? Is that right before Pelham?
Yeah.
So I was in Manchester. Me, Kaz, and Logan. We went to Pizza Hut. And we got food. We're sitting there under there, and also we see the storm coming in. And we're like, "Oh, this ain't good." So there's that church right out beside the Pizza Hut there, big old church.
Yes.
So we went in the little, I don't know what it is, the walk up or whatever. So we went in there and we sat for an hour and a half, took a nap, slept, just waiting for the storm to go.
so I see his picture. I was like, well, that must have been nice.
Well, I would have liked to have been finished by that point too.
To that point, though, I was not thirsty. So I think that would be even worse, though, is trying to go up that thing, no water, middle of the day. Did you find any water?
No. Did not. Not until I got up there and had a watered down Dr. Pepper on the throne.
So they didn't have like, I think last or that year that we did it, they had that Angel Station right there on that.
They didn't have it that year. Yeah.
Oh man, because when I got up there, I'm like, thank gosh, because I ran out of water climbing that hill.
Yeah.
Like I stocked up down there in Kimball in South Pittsburgh, but once you get, you're up there, there's nothing. I was in the middle of the night, so that Dollar General that was open for all the day people was closed.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing about it is the timing of all of that is the luck of timing as far as if something's open, if it's closed, if you gotta push through, and it's and I was fortunate this last year to hit the times that I did, because I don't think I would have had my finishing time without the good fortune and the luck that I ran into.
You had a really good performance this year.
I was said it took me a while to finally unlock the matrix, but I feel like I might have this last year, because
I want
to tell you guys, I still got the lean. I said, because of what happened at Hobbs, the previous the previous month coming up at Destin, and I had to bail on that one. I said, I'm going to take a different approach. I had to take a different approach to my racing. I said, I'm going to take more of a gratitude, being grateful for being able to be out here and not so hard-headed and demanding. And I said, what my body tells me, that's what I've got to do. And there was there was a 24-hour period during Ball State that I was in 3 different hotels.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was the first one after I was going to try to remember the names. I know the second one was Parsons. The third one was Lexington. The first one was the one with the that restaurant in that town, the only restaurant in town that you go for a breakfast at. I remember 5-star.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
about. Whatever town that is. And that's just what I had to do. I said, if that's what it's going to take. And luckily, I was only in for a few hours at each time, but it set my back up to where I was able to move when it was time to move, and was able to actually come out with a really decent time.
Yeah, I mean, you did great on this last one though. 5 days, 8 hours. That's great. You top
Yeah,
10.
yeah, that was I was less than a week after that. I was in Death Valley, pacing and crewing my girlfriend at Badwater.
Now I watched a little bit of that on Facebook. That was fun. That was
That was a good, yeah. It was. I was glad to be able to do what I was able to, after finishing the race, to be out there for her 10th Badwater finish and getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. So that was a big moment for
that's
her
cool.
and for me.
That race is definitely on my bucket list. Did you enjoy it? Did she enjoy it?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I mean, this was, like I said, she's done it so many times, and this was the third time that I've crewed her, and it's something that grows on you. When I went out there the first time, I was like, this is as desolate as can be. I was like, who wants to be out here? It's middle of nowhere. There's nothing to see. But it grows on you, and it's kind of one of mine as well now, as far as trying to get in and maybe get one at least chalked up and marked off.
So you're going to sign up for it next?
Well, I mean, I'm registered for Vol State, on the wait list there. The entry for Badwater application is in January. So I'll probably throw in my hat. I don't know, because the men's side for qualifications is, just from what Amy says, my girlfriend says, is that it's really challenging. You got to have a pretty top notch resume to be able to get in. But I think
I don't
hopefully
know.
my Vol State finishes and crewing her for 3 years
Yeah,
will help me somewhat.
I'll say 6 Vol State finishes, and then you did Hawks too, and then you crewing that. I think that's a pretty good resume.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, when you accept 100 people and you cap it, and you've got that kind of worldwide notoriety for your race,
Yeah,
it says a lot for anybody who actually gets to toe the line out there, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely a cool race, but it's also, I mean, it's hard. I mean, there's no doubt about
The
it.
the time constraints that they put on you now to get out of the park system, that's what catches a lot of people. You got a certain amount of time that you have to be out of the park, and it's a hard cutoff. And they've had people that are approaching that cutoff time, and they're within sight of the timeline, and they've been DQ'd because they haven't crossed it in time. So, which is fair. I mean, I like, it's like Laz's races. I love, his, I wouldn't say, I don't know, cutthroat, or just, it is what it is. You're going to get here in this time. And if you're not, then it's a DNF. And,
yeah,
it's not, they don't make allowances for it. And I appreciate that about his races.
Yeah. I think it says something about the toughness of the race when, there's not much grace on that part. I think
Right.
that's a good race director is when you stick to what you say you're going to do. You can
Exactly.
have a little bit of, just a little bit, but some of the stuff of where you give them an extra hour or something, that's where it's like, okay, well, you kind of changed this race because the people that have finished it,
Right.
it kind of takes a little bit of that away,
Oh,
and that's the thing I don't like.
yeah.
And he doesn't
Yeah.
do that at all.
I was originally talking about another one of his races. I was originally going to try his the little dogs
mm-hmm.
at the end of the month, instead of, I guess it's the precursor to the big dog race. It's on the same course, and I was like, I've never been on that, and it's almost like hallowed grounds when you get out to his farm, I would imagine. But I do have I've got a class reunion on that same weekend, and I've lost some former classmates recently, and I felt like I need to. There's always going to be races, but there may not be those opportunities to see former classmates and
Yeah.
True.
reconnect with some that you haven't seen in decades.
Where did you go to school at?
I went to Cape Central High School in Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Oh, and I meant to ask you, where did the wood chips accident happen?
It happened just across the river in Cairo, Illinois. It's about
Okay.
a 20 or 30-minute drive from Cape. Would
Okay.
make it regularly.
So
Um,
you're from Missouri.
Originally from Missouri. Yeah, I got my undergrad at UCM, University of Central Missouri in Warrensburg, and then worked up there for a number of years. And like I said, when I started dating, my kid's mom, she was down here in Winchester, Tennessee, and I said, well, I know you're not coming back to St. Louis, so looks like I'm gonna find my way to Tennessee, and so we ended up doing that. So.
Hey, you're in a great spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful country. I love the rolling hills. I love the changing seasons. I love you know um, the access to things. I can get to. I'm not really a big. I'm trying to embrace the trail running guys. I'm trying to do that, but it's a hard push for me. But
Yeah.
you're so close to Chattanooga. I'm close to the perimeter trail up in Sewanee. So
You got
the access is there.
how far are you from Tim Ford State Park?
I'm about 20 minutes where I
Oh,
am right now.
that's
Yeah,
not bad at all.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, and Chattanooga's got some amazing trails too. So,
right. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
but
I
back,
just have troubles with I have troubles. Sometimes I just like to turn my brain off and not worry about where my feet are. And
Yeah.
that's not a possibility on the trails.
No.
Um, when
well, I turn my
we've all,
brain off and just pick myself up every few minutes.
Or have somebody pick them up for him.
Yeah, or I have Matt pick me up. But back to Little Dogs.
yeah,
I've heard that is a really good race. I think one of our buddies won that last year.
Cal Calbus won it.
And then one of the guys we had on the podcast not too long ago, he's already signed up, Darren, so he's going to run it.
So is Kyle.
Zach Lever is going to be in it. He's going to be running it.
Yeah. So there'll be some good runners, but I've heard it's a fun race. It's kind of cool. It's kind of like how the original Big started. The original one.
Yeah, I wish, like I said, at some point, hopefully I'll be able to get out there and actually run that just to say, because like I said, there have been some titans that have been just running that little tiny farm in War Trade C, and it's kind of cool to be so close.
Yeah, I've decided I'm retiring from backyards for a while. I've burnt myself out. My last few haven't went well because I'm just not in it. I don't know why, but it's not my thing right now.
It's not. I've tried the same thing, David. I've tried it a couple of times. The format, for whatever reason, they say it's simple until it isn't. But I just can't. The conga line is just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I started out and I really loved them, so I just started doing all kinds of last man standings, all kinds. And then I just got burnt out. The longest one I've ever done was at Michigan. I think I timed that at mile 160. And that's still by far my last one, but I've went back multiple times after that and I have not even gotten close. And it's just it's just like when I start, I just know that it's going to last for days. And it just like, I'm just not happy. And I don't know why. I've started training so much for like trying to run point to point fast.
Yeah.
Right.
That I really enjoy that right now. So like, even when I went and done that one in Ohio, like the whole time, like I've not trained on trails at all, by the way. And I signed up for a backyard ultra that's in the mud. And so that didn't go well, but also at the same time, like I just did not enjoy it the whole time. And it was a great race with great race directors, great people. I got to spend some time with my team members and, my girlfriend and everybody. And I didn't enjoy the event. I just didn't enjoy it. Every lap, I was like, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the hard part about that one. I think with a lot of that, especially probably in the backyards when you don't know the finish, is being able to compartmentalize.
Yep.
Staying in that moment and not thinking ahead, and that's probably the biggest mind suck that I could imagine happening in that, when it's like I don't know when it's going to finish.
Yeah, I think how I looked at it when I did my first official one last year, 2 years ago, I did the Mad Backyard, and I didn't expect to win it, but I just broke it down into different like categories. Like, okay, we're going to do a 50K first. And then it was a 50 miler. Okay, now I'm gonna do 75. And it's like, okay, now I'm trying to get to 100. And then after that, it just kind of fell apart after that. But like you said, you don't know when the end's going to be.
Exactly.
Everybody else is playing a mind game with you. They come in, they're like, well, they don't look good. They probably feel great, or you don't feel good, and you're like, I gotta look good. I can't look like I'm not feeling good. I gotta make them think that I'm feeling good too.
Yeah, the
But yeah,
mind
it
games
is.
have got to be crazy at those things
It
too.
is. It's completely different from a point to point, but it is fun getting because you know exactly what you got to do every single lap.
Yeah.
You only got to do a certain speed. You get to a part and you walk. You get to a part and you get to jog. That part's fun, but it is different than a point to point or just a normal, timed race.
Yeah,
I
I'm
want
gonna
to.
do one last man standing next year, and then I'm taking a break for a really long time. So I'm gonna do, if I get in, obviously, but I want to do mid-state mile. I've not done it in years, and it's a little bit different than a backyard ultra. It's a 1 mile.
Yeah, it's
It's over 300 feet elevation gain.
Right.
So I want to do that one because Becca and John are awesome. They're great race directors, and I want
Yeah.
to try to do it. But after that, I'm gonna stop for a while. But I'm gonna actually train for that one.
Yeah.
I didn't train for these
I
last
think
ones.
that's the only backyard that last man standing that I know I'm doing every year.
That's one you should look. You should think
Is
about
vol-
at some point,
is
Chris.
is
You would
mid-state.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's much different format. It's kind of fun. You meet some cool people.
Yeah, I was gonna flip the tables and ask you guys, each one of you, if you had one race that you could do. Is there one in your mind that sticks out above the rest?
Of any race,
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, for me, Vol State would be, if I could only do one race, um, what would be if you guys could pick one?
That is a good question. I will say for my last man standing that mid-state is the one that I would do every year.
Yeah,
Just because you go out there and you get to see Becca and John, and that little community out there is kind of like a family. They've done it so many years in a row, like the same people, and they're from all over. They're from like Aaron's from New York, Doug Moore's from Michigan, Eric Keenley's from Montana, and they all come to one place in Tennessee, 3 hours from my house,
yeah,
and you can see them. So I really enjoy that, and it's really hard. So if you're not on your A game, I mean, you're going to be out quick. So for my last man standing, I would say mid-state, but I don't know about any other race.
How would you, as far as that goes, how would you go about, or how have you gone about training for it with the vertical gain that is repetitive?
I don't think I really train for vertical gain. I think it's more like time on feet because
Gotcha.
I usually do a lot of races leading up to that. So my first year I did it, the last year that David did it, I had no clue what I was doing. It was a complete new thing for me. So I go over there and I pass out. I'm on the trailer for Chad Wright's little movie documentary he's got. It got me passed out. The second year I did like a 24-hour race right before. So I was just on my feet constantly. And then I did I think 61 miles, and it was a top 10 finish, but I didn't train just specifically vertical up and down.
Gotcha.
And then the next year, same thing. It was just like 3 more miles, so like 64 miles. And then this year, it didn't go well. It was like 20 something miles, almost 30. It was not a good day. No, I don't think I specifically trained for that. Maybe next year I will.
Yeah. David, you're up.
so I think one of my favorite last man standings would have to be a toss up between LC
Oh yeah,
and mid-state mile. I've done LC a lot. I've enjoyed it. It's kind of like mid-state mile. They're very similar. Both great race directors. So those two are my favorite. Mid-state's a 1 mile loop. LC is actually in Georgia. It's near Ringgold, Georgia, and it's like a 2.4 mile loop. You have 40 minutes to do it with
a lot of elevation.
4 to 500 feet elevation.
It's quite a bit.
It's crazy. And you run it opposite directions each time, so it really changes it up.
And it's cold.
Each year or each time?
each time, every loop you alternate.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because I know
And it
dirt
actually has,
circuit always did you alternated the direction.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But this one, yeah, you alternate every loop.
Yeah.
So it kind of messes with you, and both loops have a climb at the end, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And then as far as like a point-to-point race, I don't think I've ran one yet. Still, I really enjoyed Yeti 50.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing Yeti 100 at the end of the month. So this is the first time that like I've trained for speed.
Right.
This whole year I have been on a trail maybe 5 times.
You did it marking the Cherokee course.
Yeah, and I'm counting that. So and that's the thing. It's like even Mary, I was telling her, I was like, well, I didn't get 100 miles at the backyard. She's like, what were you expecting? We've not even been on a trail this year. She's like, I didn't know why you wanted to do it, but she's like, I was, whatever. I was like, well, but I've trained so much this year just for, like doing the first marathon, doing Yeti 50, and now going to Yeti 100. It's all been this build up to Yeti 100.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I got a really big goal with that race. So I hope it goes well. But I don't know if I ran a race yet that I would say is my favorite. Like I would run it every year. I mean, shoot, if you were to go through my ultra sign up and look, you would probably say it was No Business in Georgia Jewel, because that's the 2 races I've ran 2 years in a row, but that's just because they're close and they're good races,
I think going one of the like the 50K that I would probably do every year that I'm doing again this year is Firewater.
Okay.
Good race directors, Tony and Kathy, and it's literally 20 minutes from our house.
Mhm.
So it's a point-to-point 50K.
Yeah.
And it's it's hard, but it's runnable. So I think that would probably be the race that I try to do every year is Firewater.
I will tell you this. I will say that the most challenging race I've ever done, to the point that, like I said, I would not do it for a very long time, was Blood Rock 100.
Okay.
And eventually I will go back and do this race again, but it took my soul. I ran 30 out. I mean, I'm standing at the start line, and I look over, and Carl Meltzer's right beside me, and like there's 30 of us, there's not many. And me and my buddy Casey, we take off, and, I run the first loop with Carl, and he kind of goes off and leaves me. And I think he finished in like 25 or 26 hours. That's how hard this race is. Yeah. Second place finished in like 27 or 28 hours.
Wow.
And I finished in third place at 30 hours. So it's 22,000 feet elevation gain, but it is covered in rocks, and then the rocks are covered in leaves. And it's just like, it was the hardest race I think I've ever done.
That sounds like it. I think a common thread that we've all kind of have pulled from, as we've talked, is the importance of a good RD as far as the race goes. I mean, I think we've all have mentioned that at some point tonight, is that, it's because of the RD, what they put into it. And I know you put on races, and I know that, it says a lot about you as well, is that, that can make or break, almost any kind of a race as far as its viability.
Absolutely.
And we're very lucky with the amount of race directors we have in Tennessee, period. Yeah. Like, you've got John Harden, you got Brian Gages, you got Tony and Kathy, Tony Owens, Kathy Smith, you got, East Coast Ventures, but you've got all kinds of race directors around here, and John. I mean, there's just so many good race directors
that care.
Yeah, that care. I mean, and Randy Horton in Chattanooga, he puts on the Lookout 50 and all of those. I mean, there's just, I can't even name all of the good race directors. And then when you step into Georgia and other ones that are right here around us, like you got Jason Green, you got Sean Blanton, there's just
David Lane.
Yeah, David Lane's right here in Chattanooga. Yep. There's just so many good race directors, and we are so blessed in Tennessee with that, and even new race directors coming out, like we started doing a race in November. It's a backyard ultra with Ethan and Julia from the Long Run. They wanted to start doing their own race, so we actually teamed up with them, and we helped them do the Barn Creek backyard in November. So, it's like there's even new race directors coming on, and Mad Cow Running, that's another one. They're a great group in Middle Tennessee, but I mean, there's all kinds. I probably even know most of the race directors, but I just
there's a
hear
lot.
people talk about
Yeah.
how good they are around here, and we're very lucky because that's not the case in most areas.
Just getting the opportunity right now is using this as a vehicle to give shout outs to those, to those people that, hopefully it can also, give some, anybody who's listening to this, is like, I need to check out that race. I need to, maybe look into that because they shouted out the race director for that.
Yep.
So I've got a question for you.
Yep.
You've done Ball State 6 times, and you said it's your favorite race. Like that's the one that you would do.
It's because I think it's the distance is always challenging. Everybody's like, oh, there's so many road angels. It's not as challenging as it used to be or as it could be. And I said, you guys have still got to cover 314 miles on your feet. And
Yeah.
you've got to do it in the middle of July through Tennessee when it can be hot as blazes. It can be storming like we had. It can be all kinds of things that you have to basically be able to troubleshoot for and still, when you finished it or if you're lucky enough to finish it, because like I said, in 21, I didn't. And it took a lot out of me to have that DNF. But I learned a lot from it. And I said, I'm not going to take it for granted. It's just a race that is always, I guess it was the first big thing that I ever undertook. And because of that, it will always, hold a place for me as that special, place that, I was able to take myself, my body, my mind to overcome obstacles and deal with, some hardships during some of those times that you grow from. And you can't grow from things that are comfortable. You can't grow from situations. And then, like I said, also, there's the set road angels there. Like I said earlier, they're not only there for me during the race, they take an interest in me and my family, and have an interest, and I've, kind of done likewise for them as well. So it's built a relationship that, you really wouldn't have without the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're, I was just looking at your times just now. So, was your very first one that you completed in 2018?
Yes, yeah, I've got 4 sub-7s. I've got 2 sub-6s.
And now you're in the 5-hour range.
Well, you sit there. He's like, oh, I hate to sit there and look at what could have been, what should have been. But you take away the hotels, you get my back square. You don't take that much downtime because there was also a hotel in Lewisburg that I did mention that I was in the hotel for almost 10 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so you just add those up, and then you're able to cut that in half. Your sub 5 days, with everything else falling in place as it would.
Lewisburg is the one that you come out of right after the Nut House, and you got that long road.
The longest road in the world to try to get their town.
There's a dump up there.
Yep.
And I'm running through this in the middle of the day, and there is trash trucks coming flying by me, and it's forever just trash.
Same thing happened. Yeah,
that town was awful. Plus, it's long. It's a long area. Once you even get into the town, you got to go through a long section to even get over to the other side before you start heading into Shelbyville.
Yes, that opens up the whole nother can of worms when you're talking about the when you get these towns. And what really messed with my mind is you get to like even Columbia. It's like you get to the city limits of Columbia, and you might see a house or two, but for God's sakes, you're still 10 miles away from anything of civilization. It just messes with you because it's like, oh, I'm in town. It's like, no, you're not.
That's exactly how Hohenwald was for me.
Yeah.
Once I get to Hohenwald, they got that school out there at the outskirts, and then it says "Welcome to Hohenwald." I'm like, okay, I'm great.
They say "Welcome to Hohenwald" like 3 times.
I'm close. I'm so close, and I'm running like. Usually when you see a sign, you're like 2 or 3 miles from like the city, and then you keep running, and you keep running, and you keep running, that I was trying to get to the hotel that you guys had left.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that was a 10-mile stretch.
Oh yeah, yeah.
From that
And then
side of Hollowall
I
into
think they have
downtown.
like 3 "Welcome to Hohenwald" signs. Just
It
kind
was
of
not
I
fun.
no doubt. I think I took a picture with one of those signs because there were so many of
It
them.
let me down.
Yeah.
It was a major letdown when I saw that
Oh yeah.
sign. I was excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that.
It messes with your mind. I mean, the race does. It's just and
I,
that's also the beauty of it.
that's what I was gonna say. That race, it definitely changes you, and this may just been one of the things that I did, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever done this, but I made a joke about it at one point because when I first started the race, the very first day, because I've never done like a multi-day race other than, I've done 100 milers, but mostly on trails. I'm not on a road running at the middle of the night.
Right.
And I just remember my first day, I'm running and like cars are coming and I'm like moving, I'm like, and I just remember on like day 4, I'm like, hell no, like just hit me. I don't care, just hit me. I didn't even move. I'm just running. I'm like, get closer. I need the air.
Well, that's
you hit me. It's okay.
Yeah.
I was on my way to from Lewisburg or from Manchester to Pelham. Me, Kaz, and Logan are going on this road at nighttime, and these transfer trucks are coming at us, and they would get on the complete other side of the road, and I'm like, no, come back on this side.
We need air.
I want this wind. I want the
Yeah.
air to hit me. And they were so nice, looking at there like, oh, you're thankful they're not trying to hit you, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I want the air. I want the breeze. I'm over here just sweltering of the sweat.
Yeah.
I think the thing I'll remember the most from Ball State is when I ran out of salty britches. And I call Mary and I'm like, what are my options? I said, we got a Walmart here. I was like, that's the only thing there is. And I think we were in Hohenwald.
You were in
We were in
Hohenwald.
Hohenwald. Yeah. And I was out of underwear because my underwear weren't drying. So I just threw them away.
Right.
I was like, I got to buy underwear, but I went through 2 or 3 tubes of salty britches at this point. But
yeah, they sent us 3.
I sweat extremely bad. It's gross. But I'm on my last tube and like halfway out, and I'm like, Mary, what can I use? She's like, I mean, that Walmart probably isn't. I don't know. She's like, you can go look. She's like, but KY jelly. I'm like,
yeah,
that's what I'm buying. So I went in there and bought, socks, underwear, and KY jelly. And I'm like, smelling like the worst thing in the world, but I'm checking out and people are looking at me like I've got my backpack on and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's like, what kind of day is
the KY jelly? But hey, it worked.
And Mike standing right beside me.
Yep. Mike standing there with a handful of Band-Aids and KY jelly. And they're probably like, what these 2 idiots doing? Like, where are they going? We're staying away from.
Those are times that you just can't. I mean, you can't replicate. You can't sit there and like, oh, I can do this at home or do this, in my own training. It's like you got to be out there and just baptism under fire. And you're talking about trucks. There's nothing like coming off of the ferry on that first road, and they are just flying by, and there is zero shoulder, and you're holding on to everything that is holy to you, trying to make sure they don't just kind of clip you.
Well, that first, was it 16 miles before you get to the Casey's? Is something like that? If I thought, you're going down that section, and there's a Road Angel station every 3 miles. It seemed like every 3 miles. I'm like, man, if this is how it's going to be the whole race, this is going to be great. Well, it wasn't. It's not how it was the whole race. But those first miles, you're filling up waters. You're like, I ain't got no more place to put any more waters. Right. And eventually, like, I wish I had more waters.
Yeah.
You're in day 3, and you're like, where are these people at? I need some water. I'm out of water.
Exactly. Yeah, it dries up at certain points. You've got an oasis in some parts, and then you got the deserts again, like they're supposed to be.
It teaches you one thing for sure, and that's if something doesn't happen or go your way, you have to figure out how to adapt.
Exactly.
And that's the thing that I think a lot of us don't truly get until we do a race like this, because when you're in a 100-miler, you're going to have an aid station at mile 5. You're going to have an aid station at mile 7. Yep. You're going to have your drop bag at mile 50.
Yeah.
when you run something like this and things don't go your way, you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that makes those 100-milers so much easier to navigate when you finally go back and do them, because you don't get your hopes up. Hell, if my drop bag wasn't there, I don't care. I'm just going to keep on running. You know, and like that's the
Changes your
thing. It's like
perspective.
it changes your perspective, makes you a little tougher, makes you a little bit more calmer in the end. I mean, it's a race that definitely changes your perspective and things that matter. You know, like when you wake up the next day and you're in this race, you're not worried about your checking account or paying a bill. You're worried about where you're going to find that next water bottle.
Where's that water at?
Right. Yep. It brings everything down to your basic
food, water.
What do you think is your hardest race that you've done in all of your races?
That I have.
And I'm not talking about like putting it in a bucket. What's been the hardest race for you and why?
It was probably.
Oh God, you did that thing too?
Up in Kentucky.
I did the second
I didn't finish it. I got to 30. I didn't. I mean, they had such a trail issue that they ended up boating us across a lake because we couldn't access the trail. I mean, that was. I mean, it was the first time I've ever really had to like rock climb and go over boulders and deal with ledges that were very uncomfortable. If you took a side step off, that was very unnerving for me, and ended up doing. I think it was there was a storming that night, and I like I said, I think I got to about 30, and I was like, I said, this is not.
What year did you do that one?
Remember. It was. Do you have it? Is it a Ultrasonic race?
No, it's not called Warhammer anymore either.
No, it doesn't show on your DNA.
I
think it starts with an M. Isn't it like Malahala? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know. But yeah, I'd have to. I don't know if it's on my shirt, my Warhammer shirt. Although I don't like to wear shirts that I'd be an FN, so it's probably
I think it's actually called Valhalla. Let me look. It's on mine. So what year did you run it? Was it the first year?
I think it was pretty close to it. It was.
I ran it the second year, and it was my very first 100-miler. And
what year was that?
I'm looking right now. Give me just a second. There was bad flooding the year I ran it, and then they had to tie. I guess they had like the rescue squad there.
Yeah, that's the year I was doing it. Yeah.
And they had a rope climb, and I had to go through that, and there was trees down everywhere.
Yeah, that was the exact same year because we had rescue squad out, and they were
It's called the Yalahala Ultra. It was in 2019.
Okay, yeah.
And I was 30 hours was my finish time.
Yeah, I didn't. That's much stronger than me because, like I said, I bailed. Like I said, I couldn't imagine being out there in that mess, for any longer than what I was. So that'd be my hardest race.
Well, I agree with you. It was a hard one.
That I didn't.
It was
the hardest race that I
different race than I ever expected is I guess what I should say. Like I didn't expect any of that. I just thought the buckle was cool.
Yeah. The hardest race that I actually finished would probably be the HOTS 2022 coming out of Frankfurt because it was such a unknown for me when you don't get the map until the night before. And I always felt like I was directionally challenged to begin with. It took me a couple years of Vol State missing turns before I actually got that course down in my head and was comfortable with all the turns there.
Well, how did you figure out to do it in HOTS? What'd you do?
Well, I trusted a little bit of my phone technology. I trusted Tim Hardy because I kept calling him. It was like, Tim, am I on the right path? And he's like, he was always a little bit ahead of me, and he's like, yeah, just stay that. You're good. Stay there. So I just need a little bit of reassurance every now and then. So.
That's the great thing about Vol State is I just loaded it on my watch.
Yeah.
And it would tell me when I was on the wrong road. I'd just stop and turn. You know, it was easy. It would actually tell me when I was coming up to a turn. But that's the one reason, like, I've done Barkley Fall Classic, and it was hard enough just doing one loop.
Yeah. Yeah,
I couldn't imagine doing the real Barkley.
I tried BFC one year, and I didn't even get. I think I might have got to the half marathon point. I got up Rat Jaw once, and as like I said, in that year we were supposed to go up it again and go up an even farther route of it. And I was like, I said, screw that. I was like, I'm chewed up and spit out. There was storms and the path was a mudslide, and there was nothing.
Me and you might have ran that the same year then. So it rained. There was a mud storm. We went up Rat Jaw twice.
Yeah, that was the same year. I didn't. I ended up pulling the plug, and it's like I turned back around. So those are always times where you have to second guess. It's like, do you really have it? Do you really have what it takes when you know there's people out there like yourself that find a way to finish, to get through those tough times that it becomes you question yourself sometimes a little bit, but and you just push through.
Well, and that's the thing. It's always a learning game, and that's the one thing I've had to like tell myself a little bit this year, because I did really good at Yeti 50. I had a great race, and my buddy Ron was running it with me as well, like, and Brian Vermillion, and Brian ended up having a really good race, and Ron was leading the race for a little while, but then Ron's race didn't go well at the end, and he ended up not finishing. But full circle, he wins Ohio Backyard Ultra, and my race, I started out, we both go to Ohio Backyard Ultra, and he has a great race, and I have a really bad race. So that just shows, like, he ended up winning Ohio and did a great job at Bob's, but it just goes to show that, like, one bad race, regardless.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's all learning. Yeah, it's a learning process, and that's what I took from it. As you don't grow until you fail.
Right. And we all are going to have bad races, and it's can you shake it off, and can you get your head straight to get back in the game? And that's, Ron did it perfectly for Ohio, and I hope that I can shake that off and get my head back in the game for Yeti 100. And I feel like I'm ready, and that's what I've been training for. But just like for you, for HOTS, HOTS didn't go your way, but then you turn around and you PR Ball State.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's what you can learn from, what you can grow from what's happened to you, and that's the whole point about why I choose running, is that there's always going to be room for growth. There's always going to be room for improvement. There's always going to be room to find out where you can take your mind, where you can take your body to at different levels. And I don't think, there's not a person on this planet that has been able to fully tap that reservoir.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's one of those things where there's two kinds of people in this world at the end of the day. There are people that choose to make the decision of why they're going to do something.
Right.
And there's the other person that's going to choose why they don't do it. And it's choosing. It's either you're going to make an excuse of why you're going to do it, or you're going to make an excuse of why you're not going to do it.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, if you have a bad race and you're one of those people that feel like every time something goes wrong, I'm just not going to do that no more, then you're not going to do it. And, and that's kind of how you live your life, is like, something goes wrong, you're just going to choose not to do it. And until you kind of flip that switch and realize that, like, things are going to go bad, make an excuse to do it again. Figure out how you're going to do something again, regardless of running, like in life, period.
Right.
Find out if you can do better and make an excuse of why you're going to do it. I hear so many people make excuses of why they can't do something.
Right.
Make an excuse why you can. Like, I hear it all the time, but man, sometimes you got to put yourself first, and you got to figure out what you're going to do, and you got to figure out why you're going to do it. And it's going to make you better in the end.
Yeah. Well, it's like this whole, everybody at my work, like everybody's jokes is like, Chris, it must be nice to, to do what, able to do and have the time that you do. And I was like, I said, I don't have any more time than you do. I have the
Yep.
exact amount of time that you do. It's what we do with that time. It's how we,
Boom.
how we,
Well
how we
said,
move
sir.
it, how we, utilize it or how we waste it. It's both, we have both options. And there's times that I'll waste my time. I'll veg out and watch TV.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the times I'm trying to figure out, how to maximize the time because, for me, I've got a little bit different perspective, with the fact of what's happened to me in the past. Another is like my daughter was hit by a truck when she was 10 years old and was life flighted to Vanderbilt. And she's, so I took time off, like my dad took time off and helped her recover. And so she's made a full recovery and is thriving and doing great things. And so it's what we have, the time that we have available to us, and what we do with that is, basically, at the end of our days, we're going to look back and it's like, oh, did I make the most of it, or did I, fritter it away?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, memories are things you choose to do in your life, and then choosing to do things with certain people. And it's the people that are in your life that help you make memories. But at the same time, sometimes you have to do things that are your own memory. And,
Right.
it's balance. So, like, you try to balance your family time, you try to balance your personal time, just like you said, every now and then, we all take that day off of like, I'm going to watch Netflix and I'm going to eat pizza and I'm not going to do anything. But those days are very rare for me, and they probably are for you guys too.
Yeah.
But I still do that. But most days it's like I'm getting off work at 7 or 8 o'clock and I'm like, I got to run. And I go run and I'll turn TV on, and that's the thing is like, even my daughter knows, like, it's funny. I come home last night. I got home at 8:30 from work and she said, you going to run? I said, no, I ran at lunch. We're good. But, she already knew. She's like, are you going to run? I was like, nope, I already done it.
Yep.
And that's the thing is like, she sees that discipline and I just want her to understand that, there's certain things that if you want to be good at something or you're passionate about something, or if it's just something that you truly care about, period,
Right.
make it your priority.
Yeah.
You've got to have a little bit of time for yourself or you're no good for anybody else, period.
Yeah.
It's like that, like this weekend or any weekend really. I'll get up and Addie goes, "Daddy, you going to run?" Yeah, I gotta go run. Okay, and then here come a little boy running there. Bye, Daddy, go run. And so, like you said, like they know, like certain times, like you have to go. You're going to do this, and when you get back, then you get to hang out with them, or then you'll sit around and watch that Netflix and just sit there and watch TV. Now it's football. Now it's football season. So we're watching football. Like me and Addie and my little boy, my wife, were sitting there, and we spend family time watching football now. So
well, and I'll be honest, I'm a better person. You let me go run for 30
yeah.
minutes to an hour, and I'm way calmer than I would be if I just got off work.
Yeah, because you're sitting there like
It's one reason why I get up and do what I do early in the morning so that I can be a better person and be more level for the students that I interact with and the people that I come in contact with.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. If you get, if something happens and you can't run, it's kind of funny because you can catch yourself being in a bad mood.
Oh yeah.
And it's because of that, and like that's the thing too, is like things don't always happen your way and you got to figure out the way through it. But at the same time, it's like it becomes who you are, not just running, but the things that you get used to doing because they're yours.
Right. Yeah.
But also at the same time, like you're probably in better shape now than you probably have been in your whole life. I mean, you run every day, you train hard, you're doing long races and you're very active.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just thinking there's a couple things that hit me when you guys were talking, and is that something that my dad has always said to me is like, if it's worth having, it's worth working for.
Yeah.
And I've tried to instill that with my kids. Last September, I don't know if you saw my Facebook post, I just hit a 1 year of cleaning up my diet, eating cleaner, intermittent fasting. There was a time where I said, Chris, you're a unicorn. I was like, you can eat whatever the heck you want and you'll still have a flat belly and be able to run like crazy. And it's like I said, that didn't end up being the case. And so I had to make some pretty serious changes to what I was eating and how I was eating and when I was eating and things like that. And I took a picture and I sent it to my kids 1 year apart, when I was like, I said, look, I was like, I just want you guys to know that whatever you guys set your mind to, you can achieve it. But it's going to take hard work. It's not going to come in a bottle. It's not going to come in a pill. It's not. There's no quick fix. There's no hacks. And that's what a lot of people at my work are saying. Like, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? And I said, there's no secret to it.
No.
It's consistency.
Yeah, you got to put the work in. You got to put the work in.
Yeah.
It's funny you said unicorn because he's going to know exactly who this is or who I'm talking about as soon as he hears this. But I told him the other day, I said, your unicorn horn is broke. I said, but we got to get it fixed. Everybody is a unicorn till their horn breaks.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah.
We all think we're special and we're gifted till something goes wrong, and that's the thing. It's like, oh, I could run a race every weekend, or I can do, and then it just doesn't work. Like it's all going to catch us at some point.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Exactly. Yep. That's right.
I learned that the hard way, and I think most of us have.
Yeah.
It took a case of rhabdo for me.
Oh, you made quite the transformations too. So congrats to you for your dedication and consistency to sticking with it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's hard to do, but like you said, it's being consistent.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's the only thing. That's the thing that trips everybody up is it's like for me when my 3:45 4 alarm goes off. There's no pushing the snooze button. There's no let's have a discussion about how much we want to stay in bed. It just becomes habit, and there's a freedom to it as well. When you have that mindset, it's like there's no discussions about what we're doing. It's getting up and doing it, and it's like I do my ones and twos, I call them, on a regular basis. It's every day it's 100 push-ups and 200 sit-ups, and it's like eating a meal.
Yeah.
There's nothing you don't, and it's like I said, there's a freedom to that where you don't have to have discussions with your mind or with your body. It's like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. So
I love how you've made that the habit and call it ones and twos. That's kind of cool.
That's a pretty good little name.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just and then, like I said, it's not like I got to do different sets. It's like not like I'm wrapping out 100 right at a time. I break it into sets, and I'm not just doing crunches. I'm doing bicycles and leg lifts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that goes with the core, it counts to the twos. And I've been doing that since early October.
Good for you.
Like I said, I'm down since last September. I think I'm down over 38 pounds, and it just makes a world of difference. Yeah, it just makes a world of difference in how you move and the results.
The whole day off Ball State.
Yeah, when you see the fruits of your labor in the different races that you do and things like that, and just being able to go out and do what we do, it just kind of keeps feeding the beast a little bit. You just
feeding that unicorn, you must put a saddle on that thing.
Yeah, so for sure.
Well, Chris, we're getting to the point now we're going to ask you some listener questions. And
okay. You got listeners paying attention?
Oh yeah. So so Matt shares it every day that we're doing this podcast, and then we'll get questions from the group on questions they want to ask you. So he'll have a couple questions for you.
Oh, awesome.
But I have a question that we ask every listener on here. That's what we always start with, and it gives him time to find the list because he usually loses it.
Well, they're in multiple places.
And Brian Vermillion normally tags him in something, and then sends.
He
like
hasn't today. He's slacking.
Brian's falling off the wagon.
Yeah.
But the question that we ask everybody is, why do you run? Like when everything's so hard, and time's not there, and everything's just impossible. Why do you do it? What keeps you going?
There's a mantra that I will pull back from, and it's something that will kind of hit me, at different times. And I run because I couldn't walk. Back in the accident, back when I was 19, and wanted to be able to do those things, wanted to be able to walk, wanted to be able to run. And you don't know what you have until it's taken away from you. And so that's just always been my go-to when I, struggle with maybe getting up and getting out. It's like, look, there was a time in your life, buddy, that you couldn't lace your shoes. You couldn't tie your shoes. You couldn't, take a step on your own, so let's make the most of this.
Yeah, that was definitely a journey, and I can see how that stays with you. So I love that answer.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
All right. My first question is, since I posted that you ran Vol State and you're a journey runner, somebody wants to know what made you want to do Vol State. How did you first hear about it?
I think I was because of I did the strolling gym back in 11. I think was my first year of doing it, and then I was online. I was looking online and just was coming across different ultras. I was looking up ultras because I was like, what else is out there? And that's when I came across, this whole last annual Vol State. And then, of course, then I thought it was like, well, I missed it because it was the last one. And then found out that it wasn't. And then that's what, I was like we said, is like, you don't know what you can do until you try. And that's always been my, thing is like, I don't know if I was going to be able to complete 314 miles. I didn't know, you just don't know until you actually get yourself out there and give it a shot.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes the hardest thing you can do is show up.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, I still think to this day that Vol State was the hardest race I ever done.
If you're, I don't know, David, how you're talking about your chafing or anything like that, as far as like, how'd you guys' feet turn out from those?
I had one blister.
Wow.
Mine were
very
destroyed. My feet were awful.
Yeah, Mike and Matt looked like they were painting a car. I mean, they were like bandaging up they had a medical bus they were carrying with them.
Hey, I stopped at the Dollar General. I can't remember what town that was. Maybe Columbia. I think it was Columbia.
It don't matter. There's Dollar Generals and all.
Whatever it was. Yeah. I stopped in there and I got every kind of like cream like I could find that was like anti-hurting cream.
Yeah.
Bare aspirin, back and body, the high strength of caffeine, and my feet just hurt so bad. They hurt so bad. I think I picked the wrong shoe, and my feet were not ready for running on that.
Well, if his feet looked anything like Mike's, it looked like a 5-year-old's school project had gone wrong.
Well, I did tape like 2 times with the extreme KT tape, but rest of it was what I would do is I would spray it down with the icy hot spray. Put Voltaren on it, run from Voltaren on it, try to numb it, and then salty britches after that.
Wow.
And then I put my sock on it. And when it rained, because I think the last few days, because me and you were kind of together, not together, but we were like a few hours apart the last few days.
Yeah.
And when it was raining through Tracy City, every time I saw a puddle, my foot was going in that puddle. just trying to numb it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't care about the blisters at that point. It was like I got to numb my feet.
It's
And then
it's a crazy thing when you get those blisters and you get the water blisters and you haven't popped them and then they explode in your side and the
And your
excruciating
ankle
pain
foot's
for a
bleeding.
little bit and then it just goes numb.
I think me and you ran up. You passed me going up Mont Eagle.
Okay.
We made it up to the top of Mont Eagle and we stopped at that restaurant. Me, Kaz, I think Logan, can't remember his name. He's from Canada.
Matt uses the word running very loosely.
Oh, no, he was running up. He was running up Mont Eagle. He
Yeah.
caught me. Me and Kaz were hiking up that thing, and he
See, for
comes
me,
running.
that's home because I train on Mont Eagle. I train all over that. It's like I just start smelling the barn when I get there, and it's just like, okay, let's
Oh yeah, he
let's keep
came past me running. Like I'm like, this dude is running up this thing, and I didn't see him again till somewhere on that long highway.
before Jasper.
Maybe before you go down that big because you caught me
Yeah.
and Kaz. We're sitting in that tent that got destroyed,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and you caught us there, and then I didn't see him again, and he finished like 4 hours before I did. But all right, the next question is: during your journey runs, what shoes do you wear?
I'll go to the Hoka's, Hoka Bondi 8. That's been my go-to for a lot of them. This last year, this last one at Vol State, I switched to the Ultra Provision 8 and had no issues whatsoever with blisters or whatever. And then I wore them out to crew at Badwater and had all kinds of issues with them. I had to switch out to my Hoka halfway through my pacing. It was a weird situation. So
I actually used the Bondies for my Vol State, and I think that was a bad decision for me. They did not do well.
yeah.
Let's see. Do you have a strength plan other than your push-ups and your ones and twos?
Push-ups. I mean, I've got a weight bench. I've got an Olympic set and a weight bench in my sunroom, which I will do. I do some. I've got some barbells, but it's usually just body weight exercises. It's usually. I mean, I did start doing. I got a weighted vest, and I started doing some other exercise with that. I've done a couple Murphs,
Mm-hmm.
just completely just kick my ever living ass. I mean those things. I can't do. I don't know how they do 100. What is it? 200 pull-ups. I think
I
it
think it's
says
100 pull-up, 200
100
push-up,
pull-ups.
and
200, yeah, and
300
then
squats.
300 air squats.
300
Yeah,
squats.
yeah, the 100 pull-ups. I've had to go and do like almost a modified pull-up on parallel bars, but I do get the 100 in. But it's just like I just don't. That whole. But that's the extent of it. I do a lot of body weights, and then I do a weighted vest. When I take my dog out for a walk every evening, I'll put the weighted vest on and add a little bit extra.
Well, that's good. Now, these are just a few stock questions that I have. What is your mileage per week?
I'll range between 70 and 100 miles a week. There was a time back around COVID, pre-COVID, not pre-COVID, post-COVID, that if I didn't do 100 miles a week, I felt like I was cheating myself. And I was just like, I would snap off 100-mile weeks, like a Pez dispenser. And I don't think that's the best, the best training plan to go by. I do a lot of running, by feel. I don't have a set plan thing. For me, that takes a lot of enjoyment out of my training when I've got set plan to go by. When I qualified for Boston, I said, well, I'll follow a plan. I followed the Hanson Brothers project plan, like to a T, and just about got completely burnt out on running. Nothing against their plan. It just, for me, I had to have more freedom with my mileage and pacing and such like that. Sundays are like I call that my lab day at the track, where I'll go and do some experimenting things that would hopefully help my track athlete when it comes time for their season. To I've been fortunate enough to have a two-time state champion in the 800, and then I've had a freshman come up this last year, and she got second, and so she'll be vying for the state championship for the next 3 years.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah, that's
There, of course, we got a middle schooler that is also an 800 meter champion. So kind of
that
been
is.
blessed.
You got some
Kind of been
talent.
blessed. Yeah, it's kind of like a luck under the stars. You know, it's they're soccer players, and they just have that innate cardio as well as
Yeah,
that killer instinct to train really hard, and so I've been able to kind of formulate plans for them to maximize their 800 times.
that's good. What is your favorite hydration, or what hydration do you use during these
Basically, as far as like my training or
training
racing.
or races or
Well,
whatever?
racing it's whatever I can get to, whatever I can get my hands on. I don't discriminate against anything. Since I've really tried to cut down on my soda intake, over the past year, that was like I said, that whole unicorn thing is like, oh, I can drink as much soda as I want and it won't affect me. So I've tried to really cut down to almost eliminate that as best I could. I'll do the Gatorade Zero. Zach Lever just hooked me up with a bunch of LMNT electrolyte
Yep,
powders, drinks. I just got that today in the mail, actually. So I'll be giving that a shot and seeing how that works.
it's pretty good. It's strong if you don't mix it right. It's strong.
Very salty.
Yeah, it's very salty. See, my last question is: out of all the distances that you've done, what has been your favorite?
I mean, I would say the longer the better for me. It's just, but I can't go like too long because now my back situation, like this hot's coming up next year. They're saying it's going to be a 400-mile option, and it's like I said, I can't do those kind of deserts. I can't do multiple deserts back to back. It doesn't suit my my lean or issues with that. If I had to pick, I would say I probably would start venturing more as I get older to the hundreds, because like I said, you can do those in a day about and not be completely trashed and be able to function um, relatively well, post that. Um, uh, so I think, going forward, I love the Vol States, the 314s, but if I had to pick one that I'm going to probably might gravitate more towards, it'd be the hundreds.
Yeah, that'll be like a break for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
On 3 days less.
like I said, I mean, you can, there's some truth to that, and I know we're kind of joking about it, but you can make any distance about as hard or as easy as you want.
Well,
You know,
it's all relative to effort.
yeah.
I mean,
I
you
mean,
want to make a
you can make
you
a
want to
marathon terrible. Like you can make it so hard.
yeah, you can make a 5K just absolutely horrid. It's just like I sit there look as like I look at some of my 5Ks times that I was able to do in my early 40s, and if I went back out now, I'd be like, how in the hell was I able to maintain that pace for 3 miles?
5Ks are rough.
Yeah,
They
for
are
sure.
rough.
Anything else? That it?
That's all I've got. That's all the questions I've got.
Chris, do you have any final questions for us?
No, I appreciate the time with you guys and just being able to just kind of ease into the conversations, and you guys have made it very pleasant for me, this being my first go at a podcast. So I appreciate you guys being so good with me.
Well,
yeah.
we appreciate you sharing your story and
Yeah.
taking the time to be on here. And it's pretty amazing story to hear. Very inspiring. And sorry you went through that, but also it sounds like it's put you on the trajectory of where you are today and
Yeah.
who you are. So
That's exactly right.
probably
I sit there and wonder, where my path would have taken me if I had not had that experience, because it adds a whole different layer, a whole different depth to, I think, to who I am, and what I'm able to bring, not just to like my family, but like my athletes as well, and anybody that I might encounter with. And a lot of times, when I first started talking about the story, I had to do it second person. I started by saying it was my friend Steve who was with me, that it was him that it happened to, and then describe the things that happened to him, because a lot of people I found is that when you start talking first person, they some will just shut off, or some will start comparing. They'll start automatically saying like, oh well, okay, this happened to me, and it more or less, for lack of better terms, becomes a pissing contest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not why that's not why I share what I share, to try and, like I said earlier, is like, I'm not trying to sit there and say that my life, my experiences are worse or harder than someone else's. That's absolutely not where I come from. So if it helps somebody with a little different perspective on their life, their approach to a hardship or whatever, then
Yeah, we've definitely in a culture now where when you talk about something that has happened or went wrong, that we automatically have a story of what went wrong with us. Like we don't. And sometimes
they won't stop. And I appreciate you guys being able to give me this vehicle, because you didn't, and you gave me that ability to be able to share and not have to worry about, are their wheels turning about, something they've gone through or something like that. You guys were been very open with, letting.
Well, and that's the thing, is like sometimes you just need to listen.
Yeah.
Listen. And I heard a great question the other day, and maybe we'll just end the podcast with this, but it was, are you listening? Are you truly listening? Or are you just waiting for your turn to speak? That really hit me hard. I was like, wow, there's a lot of truth in that. So,
Exactly.
I've tried to sit back now, and when people are saying something's wrong or something's happened to them, I don't say a word, because the most important thing you can do is listen. They don't want to hear, like, it's not a contest. It's not, you can talk about your stuff another day. Let them get it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate you guys doing that for me today. And it's like I said, it's an honor to be on this and to spend the time with you guys.
Well, Chris, it's been an honor too. We've enjoyed your story. We can't wait to get this shared, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Can't wait to see you in your next couple of races. What's next on the list?
A snowball in January.
Well, can't wait. Well, man, thank you so much for being on the podcast and joining us. And we wish you the best. And we'll have you on here again at some point again to do a catch up and see where you're at, and see how this 400-mile hot goes.
Best of you on your Yeti 100.
Well, thank you, sir. I very much appreciate that. And Chris, if you don't care, hang on for just a second. We'll talk for just a second after we close this. But thank you so much for your time, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.